all at this this time of year. I think this is the time you got to do everything you can to try to win the games, and pull out all the stops. So that's been the mentality. He's been great. The extra rest in the finals for all of the players is a consideration. You get a lot of rest in between these games, which has its advantages and disadvantages. But one of the advantages is the ability for everybody to recover and be as fresh as possible going into the game. Joel?
Joel Orange, Oklahoma.
Is that your ringtone? Nice. It's very pacifying.
Mark, what have you seen from, I know you talked about Chet's temperament and sort of how he draws on performances that maybe he's not very fond of. What have you seen from both him and Jalen this postseason after games that maybe they're not very okay with in their eyes?
Same as always. I mean, they're unbelievable competitors. They grow through their experiences. They just take a great approach to being growing players on a big stage, playing in the best basketball you can imagine. And I think, zooming out from just them, I mean, these playoff series, at no point during the regular season do you play a great team 4 straight times, with the ability for that team to lock in on tendencies and change tactics and all the things that happen in a playoff series. And so as a result of that, you're just going to get pushed to the limit, in these series. When you play a really, really good team, a great team over and over and over again, your opponent gets pushed to the limit by you in the same way. And we've seen that now in multiple series where we've gotten taken to the limit by our opponent and vice versa. We've done that to people as well. And I think understanding that's what it is and embracing that and understanding that there's nothing easy about that. It's very uncomfortable for individual players and for the team collectively. And like I said, the awareness of that and then the mentality of embracing that challenge is critical, and we have players that embrace challenges, and that serves us well in terms of being able to keep our foot on the gas when we're doing well or bounce back, when we're not.
Michael, Tim, and Mark.
Michael Grange from Sportsnet Toronto. What's it like, not only yourself as a first-time head coach? I know you can't really reflect in the middle of a series, but also a team that's so young relatively to be in a finals. How are they responding to all those challenges that, just physically, mentally absorbing, the game plan flips, all these kinds of things, like, just stepping away from wins and losses? How does your group kind of managing it?
I think pretty well. I think it's challenging. It is our first time going through it, so there's new experiences that we're going through, but I think our default approach serves us well when we're in new situations and things like that. But it's challenging. We're playing against a great team that's pushing us to the limit. Hopefully we're pushing them to the limit in the same way, but there's nothing comfortable about these games. It's a challenging opponent that's really testing us, and again, we just need to approach those challenges as opportunities. That's what our guys do. They do a great job of it, and we have to be better. We did not control that game. We won it, fortunately, but we did not control that game, and so we have to almost approach this like a loss, in terms of really needing to look in the mirror and make some critical adjustments if we want to give ourselves a better chance to control Game 5 and not just hope to win it.
Tim?
McMahon, ESPN. How have you seen Dub's game and impact evolve in the few years that you've had him all around, and specifically as a guy who you can say, hey, you're running point, you're a primary initiator and take pressure off of Shea?
Yeah, I mean, when he started with us, and this has been our approach with most players, it's not like we just hand them the ball. We put them in the system first, and the guys that are really efficient in the system, they end up banging the door down, and they kind of show you that they need more. And he was in that category. He came off the bench early on, and we weren't pushing every button for him, but he just kept, showing the ability to take more of a load, and his efficiency was not dropping off, and his impact wasn't dropping off. If anything, it was increasing. And usually, when those guys are doing that, they're declaring themselves, and he certainly declared himself. And now he's learning, all the lessons to be learned in that role. I thought in Game 3, his first stint was one of his worst stints of the series, And, he kind of catches his breath and reflects on that, and he had a much better stint later in that game, and then came out and was really big time for us in Game 4. Not only his creation, but just some of the simple plays he made to put his teammates in advantages. As much as Shea, kind of closed the game, I thought he really kept us afloat in a lot of different periods of that game. And but I mean, he's still a third-year player. He's still learning. He's still growing. And like I said, this is challenging, playing a great team over and over again.
Mark, final question.
Coach Mark Spears, ESPN's Landscape. Happy Father's Day. I want to ask you about Coach Mac's presence in the hallway. Been there since the New Orleans Hornets were playing here. And also, I don't know if he was like kind of pretty decorated women's basketball coach, high school coach here. I don't know if he ever talked about coaching and knew about that background, but just his presence and then also him as a coach.
Yeah, he'll pop me with some advice from time to time, and I take note. We take pride in and this isn't like our idea from a basketball standpoint, but we organizationally and as a city take pride in people having a first-class experience when they're here. Hopefully you guys feel that. Hopefully our fans feel that. We want the other teams to feel like that. We want this to be a great basketball environment and a great basketball experience for anybody that's here, whether they play for us or not. And he's in the visiting team section there, and I think he's a small contributor to that, in the most subtle ways. I mean, he's a great guy to interact with. I think he treats everybody with respect and dignity, and I think everybody, in that crew, they help create a great environment to have great fans. We have great fans, and they support that in their own ways. So it's not only him, but he's a great presence. I love hanging with him.